Welcome back to another World Numismatic Finds episode, and today we are diving straight into 4 greedy, sleeper, underrated UK coins from the mid and late 20th century that most British collectors overlook, yet quietly creep upward when the right condition and right buyer align. These top 4 picks, the 6 pence 1948 in dirty condition, the 20 pence 1989 in dilapidated condition, the 3 pence 1943 still seen floating around in circulating condition, and the 1 shilling 1948 in worn condition, all carry history, wartime transition, post-war metal alteration and forgotten pocket change economics that now matter. The UK coin community loves this edge of discovery, taking coins people ignore, clean out, dismiss or toss into jars, and turning them into real market advantage. This is where the UK money hunt becomes thrilling, aggressive and extremely profitable when you know what years actually have power. These are the top 4 today, and this is why you should never underestimate old change again. Let's begin with the 6 pence 1948 coin in dirty condition still carries a beautifully fierce sense of survival, heritage and British identity, and this is the exact type of coin that is beginning to quietly shift from cheap bin forgotten coin status into the high-demand collectible sphere. This is a coin that is older than Queen Elizabeth II's era on currency, older than all decimal conversions, older than the new generation mindset, and it holds a specific energy of post-war Britain that is extremely attractive now in the collector's market because anything post-war year 40s is climbing in interest due to lack of supply in good forms. The background of the 6 pence 1948 is loaded, because this was the era when the UK was still rebuilding, still restrained, still economically tight after the Second World War, and the Royal Mint was still minting coins with that traditional George VI portrait. This is what makes it extremely interesting for UK audiences today, because this coin is physically a piece of British history that was used in real circulation during recovery, rationing era, old British household street life and the old world London markets. When you hold this coin, especially a dirty aged worn old surface one, you are literally holding a used fragment of British industrial time, British cultural recovery, British identity in raw non-polished non-museum form, which is what collectors love now because they want original raw coin energy, not cleaned, not artificially refreshed, not messed about with. If we look at head and tail presentation, this coin presents George VI on the obverse side, meaning the front face is giving that classic strong royal profile which is extremely sought now because George VI coins are becoming the new mid-tier high-demand target group for collectors who can't afford the mega-elite Victorian pennies, but still want historic monarch premium. On the reverse tail side you have the crowned English floral design which symbolizes unity of the UK countries, and this exact symbolism is now becoming very attractive for long-term investment-minded collectors because these old symbols are not coming back in modern coinage production. Add the dirty age tone, the dull patina, the decades of survival grime and natural surface history, and this now becomes that raw vintage earth tone British artifact look that coin investors highly rate now because it proves untouched authenticity. The cultural and historical values are incredibly heavy because this 6 pence 1948 existed in a real transitional time. It carries the story of a nation that had just survived the most intense global conflict in history, and from a cultural point of view this is literally a surviving piece of the British mindset of resilience. Weight-wise this coin comes at around 2.8 grams of cupronickel which was the chosen composition after silver supply issues. And this is another reason collectors chase these, because this marks the shift era when the UK left silver content behind and started building coins with new cheaper metals. Therefore the physical coin is historically marking the metal transformation era of British currency manufacturing. The key facts all work together to make this coin a future rising sleeper, because the year 1948 is not extremely rare but it is not overly common in nice survival condition now due to circulation volume, metal composition oxidation, and decades of neglect. A dirty condition example still holds good value because collectors now love the raw originality, and this is where rarity and condition interplay is now shifting because the market now pays more attention to survival freshness and original surface rather than artificially cleaned manipulation. Collector demand for this exact monarch era is rising year by year because George VI coins are entering that sweet timing zone where they are leaving common cheap category and slowly entering serious vintage British value era due to new generation investment. The current market value in United States dollars for a dirty condition 6 pence 1948 can sit roughly between $800 to $2,000 depending on visual strength and originality, and higher for extremely attractive tone surfaces or rare strike clarity examples. And this coin has a pattern of slow yearly increase which is why flippers and coin holding investors are now starting to grab them early before they become priced like early QEII transitional coins or late Victorian copper explosions. For collectors my advice is simply to start locking these in while they are still affordable because this era is heavily undervalued today and the world numismatic community always turns back to historically loaded British monarch periods. Avoid cleaning these coins because natural dirt and natural age tone is a selling power sign in 2025 style market behavior. This coin is one of the most underestimated hidden gems of the late 40s UK coinage, and this is why this is a future sleeper for investment-minded collectors. So to conclude, the 6 pence 1948 in dirty worn circulated state is not a weak coin, it is not a cheap worthless coin, it is actually becoming one of the new rising desirables that is gaining modern collecting attention for its metal-era transition mark, its post-war historical identity, and its unpolished original vintage energy. This is a coin that will reward patient holding and long-view collectors, and this is absolutely one of those British old-era coins that you never just throw away or ignore anymore. This is a future British sleeper that is quietly powering up. At number 2, the 1989 UK 20 pence coin, specifically in dilapidated, harshly circulated, worn, dirty or poorly stored condition. This is a coin that at first glance looks like a nobody coin, a throwaway, something people assume belongs in random change pots, bottom drawers and unwanted jars, but actually this year is becoming heavily searched, quietly pushed in collectors groups, and is slowly moving into that class of entry-level rare UK decimal coins where people hunt for year combinations and condition subtypes rather than just only pristine mint state. In today's modern numismatic market, even dilapidated pieces are getting surprisingly noticed, and this 1989 20p is starting to be placed in those entry beginner rarity demand lists because of narrative rarity, because of limited survival of clean specimens, because general UK public has no idea about its potential value, and because the worldwide coin collectors right now are aggressively buying UK decimal underrated sleepers like this exact year. The background of this coin sits in a very interesting shift period in modern UK coinage because this 20p was early-era Queen Elizabeth II young head portrait decimal circulation coinage that directly shaped modern pocket change behaviour throughout the late 80s and early 90s. These coins were used everywhere, aggressively spent, tossed, scraped, handed around, worn down in a fully circulating real economy, and because nobody thought they would be future value items, almost nobody preserved them. This is why dilapidated 1989 examples today are now ironically more interesting to watch, because they actually tell the economic story of UK daily life, the money handling traditions, the way circulation coins were harshly treated. These worn, dirty, heavily used examples show the history more than mint state does, and because collectors are now storytelling investors, story value is now converting into monetary value. When you show the head and tail on camera, present the obverse with Queen Elizabeth II portrait showing age wear, metal abrasion lines, fading facial features and soft lettering edges which reflects this real-world use. On the reverse, the Tudor rose design on this worn and dilapidated condition coin looks more like a relic emblem rather than sharp precision engraving. This visual aesthetic is where TikTok, Shorts and YouTube algorithm attraction activates because worn equals authenticity, worn equals story, worn equals proven circulation age proof. This is what makes coin flipper audience hungry because even damaged condition builds curiosity resonance. Culturally, the 1989 20 pence coin belongs to the era where the UK economy was going into late Thatcher period transformation. This coin is a piece of UK cultural monetary history. It is a marker of those late 80s behaviours, that type of physical cash society, that generation where coins held physical spending power and not just led digital payment flicks on screens. These coins basically were the real-life microeconomy engine, and today collectors want tokens of that era. That is why this year matters. The weight of this coin is officially 5 grams, made in cupronickel alloy, which means it has good metal durability and high resistance, which is why even dilapidated pieces still structurally survive. This is why demand will continue because long-term survival equals long-term supply shrinking by natural loss. The key facts on this piece are extremely simple but extremely powerful. The mint year 1989 is now classified as one of the stronger hunt years for 20p old decimal circulation hoard flippers. Demand is rising, TikTok numismatic channels push this year extremely often lately, and international US audience is now buying UK decimals because they want entry affordability coins which might explode later. Rarity of this coin is not in mintage number but in surviving attractive worn story condition narrative which can be sold in coin collector trading groups. Today market value in US dollars for a dilapidated condition 1989 20 pence coin can run around $400 to $1,500 depending on appeal, pattern look, video presentation impact and collector mood at time of sale. This is very strong return when considering it is originally a small denomination coin discarded by many. This is why today this is becoming a high demand piece in the modern online flipping space. Collectors should always keep these types safe, avoid harsh cleaning, store in clean dry holders, create short selling reels and content videos, because visual storytelling makes demand higher and increases interest. Right now this coin fits perfectly into high greed coin flipping psychology because it is cheap by entry level and potentially profitable in near future as more YouTubers begin covering decimal sleepers. In conclusion, this 1989 20 pence coin in dilapidated condition represents one of the most underrated UK modern decimal sleeper opportunities right now because it brings history, storytelling, where authenticity, rising collector hunch psychology and early shift era of UK spending culture into one single small metal object. This is where modern coin flipping audience is moving. This is where tomorrow's affordable entry-level rare coin market is forming. If you find these in junk, pockets or old jars, you do not ignore them anymore. This is the type of coin that becomes tomorrow's shock performer. At number 3, the 1943 British 3 pence coin. We are talking here about a live circulating condition coin, which means this coin actually played a real micro part inside the daily functioning of Britain when the world was still at war, when rationing was active, when survival was priority, and when every small denomination coin had weight, meaning, and tension attached to it. This coin is not simply an old thrift shop object. This is a material witness of the biggest turning point era the UK has ever lived through, and it holds that emotional story impact which modern viewers, modern collectors, and modern YouTube coin hunters actually crave today. The interesting historical foundation behind this exact 3 pence from 1943 begins with a national decision for change in coinage composition and coin usage. The UK had to shift materials due to war pressure, industrial requirements, military allocation of metals and emergency national budgeting. This is why this coin is made from brass and not silver like the older versions. The 3 pence at this time was necessary, used heavily in daily life circulation, and it became one of the most recognized small functional coins of the British wartime civilian phase. That is why when a collector holds a 1943 3 pence, they are literally holding a real historical timeline part exactly from the direct active combat era across the world. When you turn this coin in the hand and actually observe the head side, you see the portrait of King George VI, the wartime monarch who navigated the pressure, the speeches, the morale building, the diplomacy, and the national spirit foundation during the Second World War. This is a portrait that represents stability and national spine when everything around was uncertain. When we flip the coin to the tail side, the 3 lions crown shield design gives a strong authority tone of British royal insignia and national symbolism. Both sides of this coin visually tell the same story in different ways, one side royal leadership and the other side long-term sovereign heritage. This coin also carries cultural and historical strength because UK wartime coins carry a higher emotional relatability across the coin community than generic decimal circulation modern years. This is the period where coins were not just trade medium, they represented morale, discipline, national functioning, and patriotic structure. And because this coin is circulating condition today, the worn surfaces, minor dents, rubbing marks, and aging texture become even more valuable in emotional storytelling because this is real circulated life evidence, not modern man-made clean proof. The weight of the 1943 UK 3 pence coin is approximately 6.8 grams, and this thickness and multi-sided shape is very well appreciated by coin collectors even today because it gave a unique handling identity which no other denomination at the time had in the same feeling and same holding presence. This shape alone also makes it extremely easy to identify even when mixed with random coins in bags. Key facts that attract modern collectors today include war period year, composition shift, high survival rate in use condition but far lower survival rate in strong high-grade condition. This coin in circulating condition is still lightly huntable but demand is rising because wartime year viewers today are becoming extremely active buyers on YouTube coin dealing auctions and TikTok micro auctions. For today's collector demand, because the UK 3 pence 1943 is part of the essential wartime numismatic category, values in the modern coin investor environment are rising in a slow but steady positive motion. A circulating example today in the United States market in online trade platforms and cross-border coin trade can realistically range around $300 to around $1,000 depending on wear, photo quality, actual brass tone, preserved surface strength and buyer appetite level on that particular day. Rare near-mint examples go higher, but this video is specifically about circulating condition. Even this tier is entering quiet high interest. For collectors who are building a long-term portfolio structure, this coin is a smart entry category coin because it is still obtainable, still affordable, still historically powerful, still emotionally iconic and still inside the active rising phase of wartime coin popularity. The best strategy when you find this coin is keep it sealed, keep it moisture isolated, keep it documented and do not polish because war coins should remain natural to protect value. So in final closing, the 1943 British 3 pence coin in circulating condition becomes one of the extremely meaningful starter coins for long-term UK numismatic investors. The story is powerful, the history is huge, the wartime emotional weight is undeniable, collectors are increasing the buying pressure, and this coin fits perfectly inside the high-demand category silently climbing forward in future value reputation. At last the 1948 1 shilling in worn used circulated grade, is now quietly entering the radar of world specialty collectors. This is the kind of coin which looks modest to the naked eye, looks like low-value scrap at first sight, and looks like a coin which many British families once had thrown in biscuit tins, drawers, rusted metal boxes and background storage. But in reality, 1948 is one of those post-war impact years where the British currency story was transitioning and rebuilding after the Second World War, and major collectors today want those specific transition-era pieces. The background history of this coin is deeply connected with the rebuilding phase of the United Kingdom. Britain after 1945 was restructuring identity, material supply usage, resource shortages changed manufacturing, and this was one of the most sensitive coin production eras. The 1 shilling was still carrying that classical monarchy portrait style, but metals were changed. Silver was removed after 1946, so coins like this 1948 example were produced with copper-nickel alloys instead of sterling. So this coin is not a pre-46 sterling silver piece, but it still holds extremely powerful cultural and historical value because 1947 and 1948 are the early years of this new metal changeover policy which today investors, researchers, and show hosts in coin channels study very aggressively. When you hold this worn 1948 shilling, the obverse portrait of King George VI can still be seen even if it looks flat or rubbed, because the worn condition visually tells the story that this coin traveled through real hands, real rationing era, real pocket usage, and the reverse tail side showing the crowned British shield design also still communicates royal British identity at that time. Both sides have that iconic British classical press style which is very strong appeal for UK targeted audiences on YouTube because buyers today are trying to preserve the history of real usage coins. The weight of this coin is around 5.65 grams, which is correct factory specification, and even in worn condition collectors still verify weight because weight proves authenticity and proves that the coin is genuine and not modern copy. Everything in worn condition in rare UK circulation coins is acceptable because the value here is story, year, composition era shift and scarcity in good survival rate. The key factors that make this coin wanted are year rarity in strong surviving condition, the metal shift era importance, and the fact that real collectors want changeover period pieces because these are market sleepers and future high spike intervals are very possible. This 1948 shilling is now beginning to enter the global coin community's radar as part of future slow steady growth, especially in UK and US crossover collectors. A worn circulated example like the one we are describing can be seen today selling in active coin markets and online international platforms between around $600 to $800 depending on eye appeal, surface brightness, level of rub and overall original metal texture. Better preserved circulated ones or lightly toned pieces can stretch even higher. Collectors' demand is now moving in the direction of these lower denomination British post-war coins because they are affordable entry-level but still represent real historical value, and that combination produces viral buying interest. People entering the vintage UK coin niche want coins like this to begin affordable but strong long-term portfolios. My positive suggestion for collectors is always to keep these coins safe in non-PVC flips, avoid polishing, avoid chemical cleaning, keep original old metal surface intact and hold them for future decade growth because these post-war transitional composition coins are not staying cheap forever. In conclusion, the 1948 worn 1 shilling is no longer an ignored piece in numismatics, and in coming years you will see strong community discussions rising around these coins. If you are building a UK vintage coin portfolio for content creation, flipping future or long phase holding, the 1948 shilling is a very smart sleeper addition. This is why the British post-war copper-nickel era is a major new wave niche, and this is exactly why these types of coins are becoming highly demanded and extremely attractive for modern collectors worldwide. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to stay tuned to World Numismatic Finds for more rare and valuable coin discoveries from around the world.